clear to play.
Welcome, Wargamers. My name is MiniWarGaming Dan, and I'm from MiniWarGaming.com. If you guys didn't already know, just making things clear. This is Tactica for the HQ choices, particularly the Big Mek. Big Meks are a favorite of a lot of guys. They're just so they're more like a utility HQ choice in that they're so functional. They can do so many cool things for your army. Instead of like a war boss or your regular HQ choice, that's kind of like your hero, the guy that runs up front and takes and does so much damage. Instead of your like that classic feeling of that, the Big Meks kind of make a little twist on HQ choices, which I love. Which it just creates for a lot more Tactica, a lot more flexibility. And what I love is an Ork army, a headless Ork army. Basically, what that means is that there's no model that you can kill to severely hurt the Ork army. There's just so many buildings, so many units charging at you, and you just got to kill all of them. There's no like specific unit that you can focus down so much. I think that's an elite unit. That's why I shy away from like knob bikers and stuff. And so the Big Mek, he can take, one of his awesome things is a Kustom Force Field. So the Big Mek with the Kustom Force Field, what he can do, well, he gives a cover save to everybody. And so for infantry models, they get a 5+ cover save wherever they are on the board if they're within 6 inches of the model. So 6 inches, you measure 6 inches around, make a nice little circle there, and it doesn't matter how much of the unit is in it. If just one model is touching within that 6 inches, the whole unit gets it. It's been fact. It's awesome. So that's awesome. So you can even be out in the open and you still get a 5. It's not, 4+ cover save, but it's still something. It's better than your 6+ armor save, your t-shirt save, way better than that. But then what's even better is that vehicles count as obscured targets, which means they get a 4+ cover save. So against vehicles, that's even more powerful. So one more thing about the Kustom Force Field is that you measure from the hull. Okay, so let's show you guys. Okay, so this will look somewhat familiar in that you have a bunch of vehicles and they're going to be spread out. There'll probably be more vehicles as well, like battle wagons and such. And your Kustom Force Field gets planted right in the middle, and you want to try to block line of sight to your vehicle with the Kustom Force Field in it, because then they can't even shoot at it. Because if they have the same chance at killing all the vehicles, if they can at least shell enough shots into the Kustom Force Field, and if it's a truck, if it careens, it explodes, who knows, then, or it can't keep up with the other vehicles, then it'll be bad news bears for you. But so you want to try, if you have more vehicles, you kind of want to keep the Kustom Force Field either in a battle wagon with the front team armor, and then just protect the side armors with the other vehicles like up on the sides, so you can't even see it from that angle, and so you have to be in the front arc to even be able to shoot at it. Just protect it as much as possible with line of sighting. Or but if you think about it, 6 inches, that's all the way over here. Or I hope you need to be a little closer, all the way over here. And so when you're moving, just make sure. And so now it doesn't matter how open these two trucks are. Or if normally you'd be, like hugging terrain and, because trucks particularly aren't afraid of terrain at all. And so you just hug them, get that cover save. But then all of a sudden, with the Kustom Force Field, it doesn't matter if you have terrain or not. You can just run right in the open. And because of that, half the shots are negated. Half the penetrating shots are negated. And so when people start shooting at you, they're like, okay, I know how much shots it takes to kill a truck, and they roll that, they get it, but then you negate half of them and it's not necessarily killed, and then they're like, oh, and then I don't know what to shoot at, and then they usually don't put enough shots to each one. It's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. For all of you who have tried it, you know what I'm talking about. Not to mention, all these other guys, around, they're boys, I'm allowed to throw them around. Anything around that, this all gets, in this big area right here, all gets a 5+ cover save. And so Kustom Force Fields can be fantastic. Now the Big Mek, that's if you replace your Slugga, you can get a Kustom Force Field. You can give him a war bike instead. There's really no use for him to be on a war bike. There's no utility there. Big Meks can repair on a 4+, you know, immobilized or weapon destroyed result. But it's just not worth all those points put on a war bike to just run around repairing. He's so much more effective at just the Kustom Force Field preventing the damage instead of having to repair it, because then you have to repair in the shooting phase and you can't even move with them until the next turn, even if you do roll it. So don't give him a war bike. You can take ammo runs with a Kustom Force Field. No, Cyborg body and heavy armor. It's up to your discretion how many points you have left. It just makes them more survivable. It gives an invulnerable save or a 4+ normal save instead of there's just a t-shirt save that he regularly gets. And so usually my Kustom Force Field doesn't get into too much combat. I usually put him with like a squad of Burna boys. Although one good way to use your HQ choices is to put one battle wagon full of boys and a Kustom Force Field, another battle wagon full of Burnas, and a war boss. And so the Burnas get target priority because the Burnas in the battle wagon do so much damage, but then the Big Mek also needs to be targeted because that's the one that's giving a cover save to everything. And so it's all about target priority with orcs. You want to keep them guessing. You can't make one thing super tasty to kill. You want to spread it out as much as possible, and then all those attack at once. And that's what makes Orc Army super effective. And so that's what I like the Big Mek, is that he's not overlaying a lot of points. And even though he does grant that amazing cover save, you can take 2 of them, and you can get 2 Kustom Force Fields in those bigger games, and you just cover the whole thing. But they're really cheap for what they can do, and they're fantastic. So the other upgrade that is quite fantastic is the shock attack gun. I apologize, his head fell off. It's right here. It's right. It's awful to glue. I tried a few times recently in the last week and it just keeps on falling off. So I'll have to pin it or something. I'll get around to it. I'll have to get a Mad Doc Grosnick in here and he'll fix them up. So the Big Mek shock attack gun, he does crazy things. He rolls 2d6 for his strength, and then that's how much strength it is. If he rolls a double, then crazy stuff happens. Read the codex for all the stuff that happens, because tactical wise, you can't really plan for any of those to happen. What you can plan is you get an average of 7 to 8 strength with a large blast ordnance from a guy. He's got an ordnance weapon and he's just like, I got an ordnance weapon. I love orcs. So it's ordnance, it's heavy, so you don't move them at all. So you want to keep them in a good place that you can fire a lot of people. And so what you want is keep him in a squad of either Ludas, which can also keep up with his range, because he has range 60, Ludas have range 48. So we'll be able to keep that. Or you can put him with a squad of Gretchen, with like 10 Gretchen with a run herd, so 11 other models. And then you can stretch out the Gretchen behind. I'm going to show you guys. Okay, so just pretend these boys are Gretchen instead. And so you got your 10 or 11 Gretchen with the run herd and your shock attack gun. And so you space them out. Now this is one squad, because independent character in the squad, half the squad is behind cover. So anything shooting at the shock attack gun, he'll get a cover save first of all, and anything that dies, you can take off from this group right here. Okay, and you can still stay in cover for quite a long time, and this can give you a huge arc of fire. And so you don't have to worry too much about things hiding from you. You'll always be able to fire at something. When you fire with the Ludas, you just have to put them out in the open, and the Ludas will just help the Big Mek from getting picked off, but they can still shoot at the Ludas from normal. So it all depends if you have those extra, just a few points. It's really not that much. It's like 50 points to add a squad of Gretchen. It's an option. I actually went over this in the Gretchen Tactica as well. That's really it for the Big Mek, of like the useful tactics that you can use them for. Because the shock attack can deal a lot of damage, but you got to keep him alive somehow. And it could hurt you too. It's just fun. He's awesome. But he can actually surprisingly do reliable damage. The only other thing I just want to touch on is that a Big Mek can take a Death Dread as a troops choice. And so if you're really into those walkers, they're actually not the most effective things in the world. Depending on your list, the kilocans are usually more effective. But if you're out of heavy support and you really want to take a walker, you can take a Big Mek, which you should have anyways if you're taking heavy support with vehicles. And then you can bring an extra Death Dread as a troop choice. They can't capture objectives because they're vehicles, so it conflicts, but they are still pretty cool. And, oh, one last thing. You can upgrade them to either a Burna or a Power Claw, okay, instead of his Choppa. And so the Burna gives him power attacks. The Power Claw gives him, obviously, Power Claw attacks. And so more strength with the power, but you're at the lower initiative, so you're not hitting as much. And so they're both optional, and again, it depends on what your Big Mek usually do. Play a few games with him. If you find that he's getting into combat and he's getting those attacks off without getting picked off too fast, again, he might not be getting picked off because he doesn't have a Power Claw or Burna, but he might. So if you think that he's getting, if you're using him in that way that he's getting into combat that much, then by all means, give him a Power Claw, because Power Claws rip through things, and a Big Mek is basically the same stat line as a Nob, so he's just going to be just as effective as a Nob in close combat. But if he has a shock attack gun, don't give him anything. If he does teleport himself across the board, which he can do, it's a mistake. You can't plan for that, so it's not worth spending all that points on an upgrade in close combat if you're just like hoping that he does. I mean, maybe one game in like all of your games will be awesome like that, but most of them, stick to what you can rely on, and that is mostly Kustom Force Field, occasionally that shock attack gun. Big Mek will do wonders for your army. It's awesome, and since he's already inside your vehicles, odds are he'll be able to repair them as well. Click here. Talk about the weird boy. Ooh, he's cool. I like that weird boy.